I think image is always important. You switch on your TV and you've got these wonderful, beautiful models saying, it's like the Rolling Stones song, you know, he can't be a man because he doesn't smoke the same cigarettes as me, you know, and all those kind of things. And we live in a society that bombards us with kind of things that we can't really compete with, you know, like standards of living, standards of sexuality, standards of perfection.
Right.
And I think that, like TV adverts and things, I think we're one step beyond the TV advert because we are real. And, you know, there's something very imperfect about me that people can relate to, you know. I don't get all beautifully made up girls coming to my gigs. I get fat little girls, I get black girls, I get all shapes and sizes, I get people. I deal with real people, you know, and what I sing about affects real people. You know, when you sing about love, don't think for a minute that, you know, like fat people don't fall in love and people with glasses don't fall in love. It's funny because when we were at the Hare Krishna temple, I went there last week just like for a visit, and they showed us this painting. They were trying to explain some of their theory. They showed this painting of like the head, the Krishna guy, you know, and it was like in, you know, thousands of years ago, and there was like a goat kissing a rabbit and a lion kissing a deer, and my friend said it's not possible. And I said, well, if you say that's not possible, it's like saying a fat person can't kiss a thin person. And that's the kind of mentality I work with. Right. I mean, I think that, apart from, you know, people write about me, oh, he's perfectly made up. I mean, I've got lots of imperfections, which is why I wear makeup and why I dress the way I do. You know, I'm very careful about the way I look. And I'd say I was more like Joan Collins than David Bowie, because, I mean, I'm just like... I don't know if I should say this. I mean, my attitude to makeup is the same as a woman's, you know.
Right.
And it's not an image for me, it just makes me look better. You know, the image, and people talk about the image and they say, oh, when are you going to change it? I mean, I might do. I mean, I've changed, you know, I don't wear my hat anymore. Maybe I'll wear it next week. I might wear it tomorrow. Maybe I'll wear it tonight. You know, it's like... I mean, I changed my underwear, you know.
Right.
People don't sort of kind of ask me, oh, you know, why do you change your underwear? When you do things, everything has a reason, but... You know, by analysing it, it becomes irrelevant. I mean...
No, I know you've sort of covered the subject of where you say you love it, but how did you handle personally that form of intense sort of press?
Like just
wanting
like
to be, I mean, everyone wanting to know who is this boy George? I mean, from like Australia to America to everywhere.
With a fit of giggles, really. You know, just, you know, like with mass hysteria.
Yeah.
But also... Just because of my nature and my sort of personality and everything, I just cope with it in the sense that I just did everything, you know,
right.
to the best of my ability. I went and talked to people, and some interviews were good, some were bad. I mean, some people took to me and some people didn't. But it really didn't bother me, you know. I think people just, whether they hated me or liked me, I think people were never sure of how far it would go or what we were capable of, which was great, you know, right. Because all those misconceptions, you know, have helped to make us as big as we are now. And, you know, that initial period was one of the most exciting periods.
Well, it can also be a shock period as well. I mean, like, where there's so many stories. How did the rest of your family cope with it at that stage?
It was sort of... They were really involved, you know what I mean? So it wasn't like suddenly George disappears, you know, to Hollywood. It was,
right.
It was like, oh, God, guess what happened today? Oh, my God, you know, what's happening now? And it was like... you know, the thing about... pop's success is that it's very public.
Right.
So, you know, your parents get the papers delivered and they see what's going on. And also, you know, I talked to them the whole time. They didn't...
And your sister? I mean, like...
All those, yeah, my brothers and sisters had that kind of... Obviously, that problem of kids at school and stuff.
Yeah.
But it wasn't... They handle it, you know. They're very bright. They're not stupid, you know. They're quite strong, you know. I come from a very strong background, you know, so they're all quite tough kids, you know, my brothers and my sisters. She's very, you know, she's great. She's full of kind of cheek, you know. She's a kind of, you know, when Marilyn came out of the house, you know, she just said, have you got a boy? Marilyn said to her, have you got a boyfriend? She said, what's it got to do with you? It was great. And he just went, sat down, which is quite funny. She's just, you know, she's full of jip, which is nice, you know. So they handle it. I mean, she went to school a couple of weeks ago and the teacher, she took a day off and the teacher said, you know, I hope you weren't having a photo session with your brother. And she said, I can do what I bloody well like, you know. So it's better than being at school, which is great, you know, which is the sort of spirit I admire, you know. So they're pretty cool.
Well, let's take the other parallel then of Michael, of where it's just got to a point like yourself, where, I mean, you're on every magazine, and I mean, you make headlines around the world, you sell records and become two of the biggest selling record makers within the world today. And there's these terrible stories written about Michael, And they do affect him, and they affect his family.
Like what?
Well, from like that he supposedly had, you know, his whole face restructured, that he's having hormones, I mean, just to anything, you know what I mean? Obviously there is, again, there's two distinct parallels between you that you are not upset about it to him that he is.
You see, I think the trouble with America is that the star system is so strong and people take themselves too seriously. You know, I mean, if someone writes that I'm a transvestite, okay, it might annoy me, but who cares? You know, who cares? It's like, so what, you know? Rather be a transvestite than be a leper. You know, it's like, there's, you know, if you have a choice. I think in America, they spend so much time being stars. You see, the good thing about this country is that, you know, obviously you've got freedom of speech, but also you've got, like, you can be a millionaire and still walk around the streets. You know, in America, you have to live like a rich person, whereas you can just be like everyone else here, and you can forget about what you've earned and what you're doing, which is great. And you have to have that. And in America, there's no, you're not allowed to do that. Do you know what I mean? There's not that kind of, there isn't that kind of freedom. You know, there are some places you can go in London where people completely ignore you. You know, they're so cool, it's like, oh, look who's just walked in. You know, and it's fine, you know, I don't mind that. It's good, I like that. But I think Michael never gets the chance to meet real people. Right. All the time, it's like, you're so fabulous, oh my God, you're so wonderful. Who wants to hear that 24 hours a day? Yeah. You know? Yeah. It's like drives you crazy. And I think that's what happens in America. Everybody's a fan. Everyone. You know, from the people on the radio to the people on the news, everybody adores you. And they adore you so much that you just want to hide. Right. You know, and even your family, really, are not necessarily real people because you know them, you know, they're like close to you and they're always going to be on your side. But, you know, you can go out and... I think it's good to get thumped occasionally and to have people like, you know, like starting on you, and it brings you down to earth, you know. There's a guy, I told you before, there's a guy in a Chinese restaurant who, you know, kind of, we were having a meal and we were waiting for a meal to be served, and he started calling me a poof. I went up and I said, what's your problem? And like, you know, as soon as I went up to him, it was like so nervous, you know what I mean? Right. Suddenly the TV becomes reality. Yeah. And it was like, I said, is there something wrong? And he said, no. I said, okay. Just walked off. And we carried on with our meal, but I mean, he wanted to, you know, if I'd have ignored him, he probably would have thumped me. I think he just wanted attention, which is the problem with a lot of people. I mean, the original story I heard about the Marilyn incident is that the guy asked for his autograph and he said no, or because he always does, like, people come up in the street and they say, Marilyn, can I have it with you? He goes, no, and then he gives it to them, but he does it as a joke. Whereas I suppose people are so kind of nervous about coming up to you anyway. You know, if you kind of mess around with them, they can get really panicky, and that's probably why, you know, thumped him, I don't know. But, you know, like, we definitely have more of a sense of humour. I mean, I don't know what it's like in Australia, but in England we have more of a sense of humour about it. We don't fall over our artists here, which can be annoying, but also it's good. You both have transcended every age group for different reasons. I mean, from children who think both you and Michael are like, I don't know, perhaps the modern day Peter Pans or whatever, you know? Do you find that? I don't know about that. I just... From the beginning, I mean, if you read a lot of my early interviews, I said I didn't believe in the generation gap. It was nothing to do with the success that we had. From the beginning, I just... You know, if you look back at our interviews, you know, we said we didn't want to make music for, like, trendy people with pink eyeshadow and spiky hair. We wanted to make music for people. You see, I believe it's harder to write a song for 10 million people than it is to write a song for 10. You can do, you know, like a kind of really free-form record and play it to your friends, and they can all say, hey, man, it's really great. But, I mean, to make a record that sells all over the world in millions of different cultures, from Africa to India to Egypt to Australia, it's hard. Right. And, you know, all these people that deny it, they're just really stupid people. And sure. I think... But, I mean, apart from the success of the records, though, I mean, you mentioned two names, be it Michael Jackson and Boy George, as opposed to a lot of other people, you know, some very fine artists, from even, say, Stevie Wonder to Lionel Richie to whoever, you know? Or perhaps Paul McCartney may be an exception on that rule. But everyone knows those two names. Literally, I mean... Well, from Michael's point of view, I think it's because of the records and because of his image. Because his image is, like, unique. But... Well, so is yours. I have to say with Michael, I mean, I think... Michael reminds me a little bit of David Bowie in the sense that 3.5 years ago, I went to see Prince at the Lyceum in London, and he looked like Michael Jackson. Before Michael Jackson, he had that hair and he had those clothes. Michael is a very chameleon-like character. You know, everybody looks at him and says, oh, he's really shiny, but he knows what's going on. Right. And I think that because he's so quick and because he's obviously got a good organisation around him, he can always remain on top. But also he's got the voice and he's a great dancer. You know, he's got entertainment down to you know, that.
Right.
With me, it's been talk.
Well, I was going to say,
It's been talking.
you've got the image and you've certainly got the intelligence, which I think, first off, a lot of people, perhaps not so here because they probably knew you better, but
Oh,
a lot
they
of
do
people
here.
got the shock that suddenly there was this person who was highly intelligent.
Well, they still insult me here.
Yeah?
You know, I mean, it's like, it's the bane of my life. You know, there's some columnists I'd like to strangle, you know, and if I ever saw them, I probably would. I mean, it's just, some people are so insensitive and so stupid.